So welcome to the Market Mentors podcast, Christie.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Absolute pleasure. So before we get stuck into this one, I'd love to know what your relationship is with developer marketing.
It's very close. I have been a professional developer marketer for quite a few years, and I've recently left that role. I now work within and with the developer marketing team at my current company, which is Salesforce.
And I'm sure most people have heard of Salesforce.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Indeed. And you've just got back from Dreamforce as well. So yeah.
Massive event. It was amazing to just be with our customers again and be with, it is like old home week because they all know each other so well. We're a very old company in the tech space. We're 22 years old and they all know each other really well. They've been supporting each other for years. So they get together and it's like, a family reunion. Yeah. It's lovely to see actually, and to be a part of that.
22 years. That's making me feel old.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that the tech industry is that old, much less a company within it. Yeah.
I know, good stuff. So it's renowned to be a sort of tough persona to market to developers. But from your perspective, what do you think makes it particularly hard?
I think some people think that it's hard, especially if they don't understand their audience very well. And I would say that's true of marketing to anybody. If you're going to market to 7-year-olds, you really need to understand the world from a 7-year-old's perspective, although that's illegal probably, so don't do that. I think with developers, it's understanding their persona. And I have been privileged to have spent most of my 27-year career hanging out with developers, watching them work, watching them code, having a real appreciation and an understanding of what it is that they can do and what they're capable of. It's really remarkable to watch them work, and it gives you such a great insight. And if you have that ability to get onto that level with your target audience, I highly recommend it. But of course, many marketers won't be able to go to that particular level. So, the more fundamentally, the more you can learn about your audience, the better, right? And it doesn't matter how you obtain that data or how you, how you go out and try to find that data. But the more you have, the better. But in my particular case, because I was embedded with them for such a long career and, through a variety of different roles, I've really gotten to understand what it is that they like and what they don't like. And I really don't mean to set myself as some sort of, developer whisperer. That's not it. I just listen to them and I hear what they say. Traditionally and stereotypically, most people would say, oh, developers don't like marketing, do they? That's always the question I get. And I say, well, if it's going to benefit them, they probably don't mind, right? It's just that they intrinsically are suspicious of marketing speak. And they're that's not who they are. They're not bells and whistles kind of cheerleading people. They're people who are looking for technology to help them do their jobs better. And that's not a cheerleader kind of segmentation or focus that you should have. What they like is as easy to understand as what they don't like. What they like is stuff that's going to help them. They like plain English. They don't want, too many, like I said, bells and whistles. They don't want too much marketing speak. They like plain words. They like words specifically that matter to them. Words or terminology that speaks to them. And they like to be able to trust who is sending them this information. They don't give their details away lightly. So it is very much a case of respecting the information that they have gifted you and allowed you to use, which should be, of course, true of every potential target audience member. But with developers, I'd say a little bit of a healthy dose of respect that's actually a little bit more than you would give to a normal person would be greatly appreciated. I think also they are more specific to the channels that they like, drawn to those particular channels. So once the developer finds a channel that works for that person, they're going to really embrace and utilize that. They like to dig deep. They like to get under the hood of everything. And they like to trust who they're listening to. So if you can send send an email that is full of animations and, confetti and, and lots of marketing speak, they're probably not going to like that as much as, here's some great information for you. And this is why I think you're going to really use it or really like it. So it's a respectful relationship. And also there's the added confusion or challenge for a marketer, because a lot of times a developer is not actually a person that you conduct a financial relationship with. And that's a really hard thing as a marketer to get your head around, because it means fundamentally you don't drive them through a sales funnel. And marketers are trained on driving people through sales funnels, right? We want to clench that call to action. That's how we measure ourselves. So probably if you are marketing towards a developer audience, your call to action for them is not going to be financially based. It's going to be driving them to download, people don't download white papers anymore, but to access some particular piece of content, or to try out your software, or to give a review of your software. So it's a matter of having a conversation with that person via your digital traditional channels, which, there are myriads of those. It could even be paid media. But the important thing is that at the end of that particular conversation, you're not asking them to hand over any cash. So that's why you have to treat their data or whatever it is that they give you in return for that handshake conversation with as much or even more respect than you would a cash bottom line signature.
Wow, you've given us so much information there. Let's dig into a little bit of that then. Yeah. So, you hit the nail on the head at the start. It's sort of understanding your persona, whoever that persona might be. But, for the purpose of this podcast, let's say that we're a marketeer that's landed into a company that's going to be marketing to developers for the first time, or, a company that markets to developers is hiring a marketer to start their marketing. In terms of sort of understanding the developer persona then, what sort of tips would you give them to do that? Obviously, you've done a lot yourself, sort of sitting with those developers. That would be utopia. But what could they be doing sort of quickly and sort of short term to sort of pick up or get up to speed on what that persona likes, etc.?
Number one is data analysis. What data can you get and how do you analyze that particular data? It could be something as simple as page views. Let's say you have a particular page that you're trying to drive developers to for whatever reason, whether it's to review some content, or whether it's to provide feedback, or whether it's to download something, right? You're driving them towards that action. Okay, so what action has been taken already? What were the success factors there? Did it succeed? Did it not succeed? I think any marketer worth their salt should not be afraid to find out that the answer is 0, right? That just means you can go everywhere up from there, right? It's not a bad number. It's just a number that needs improvement. So I keep that figure in my mind, but take data wherever you can get it. So is it page views? Google Analytics will tell you that, right? Is it pipeline? Okay. So is your pipeline low? Why is your pipeline low? What have you done to attract people already? Was it the content, right? So find out all the data that you can, do that analysis, do some research into who your people are. That's number 2. So if you can't sit with them, maybe you don't have a focus group, maybe you don't have a group of influencers already existing. Well, you have stakeholders in your organization. Each of them, interestingly, and take this with as much of as much salt as you need to. Each of them will have a completely different perspective on your developer audience, right? So the sales team will have one view of that particular group of people. The customer success or customer service team will have another completely different view. Maybe the chief product officer or the chief information officer, your CTO, that person will have a completely different view as well. Just go and talk to all of them, right? What do you think our developers want? Why do you think they want that? What blockers have you seen to them? What have they told you that they're not interested in, and yet we're still doing that? What would you change if you had all the budget in the world? Ask really probing, or even big sky questions to try and find out as much as you can about those particular people. And my third thing, and this has always been one of my top considerations, no matter what job I'm in. If you don't know what your customers want, why don't you ask them?
Seems strange, doesn't it?
It is the most remarkable thing, because people get really stressed when I say that in the room, and I watch people's faces just crinkle with stress and anxiety, because they're terrified of what their customers might tell them. But probably your customers have been with you or have bought from you for some good reason, right? It's going to be a positive reason. Even if it was, okay, you had a really, you gave me a free gift when I signed up, right? Okay, well, we gave you a free gift when you signed up, but you're still with us now, right? Why is that? So find out what your customers want. Pick, go to customer success, pick 5 customers from them. Go to your sales team, pick 5 customers from them. And then actually reach out and ask those particular people. Those people not only can be your focus group for, research analysis and understanding what it is that you're bringing to their livelihoods or their careers, their professions, but also where it should be going, right? It's a great way to identify gap analysis or gaps within your offerings, right? So, we have 4 customers and they all said that we really need to be providing this, and we haven't done that. Well, that's 4 people out of 5 that you talk to. That's a pretty good indication that you should go that way. And, a lot of companies will want to lock down on that relationship. Well, only our account executives can talk to our customers. Well, that's fine. Sit with your account executive, have that person ring up that customer and say, this is Christie, and she would like to ask you a couple of questions. And because you're one of our best customers and you've been with me the longest, or, whatever that is, I would love for you to be able to tell her candidly, off camera, off record, what it is that you think is good and what is bad, because she's trying to figure out what we can do better for our customers to talk to them. Right. And how is that that's a wonderful conversation to have with a customer.
I think a customer would feel privileged almost.
Yes.
That you're listening to them, So in your opening statement, which was great, you also talked about, developer marketing is perceived to be hard, but ultimately, if you create something that they value, they're going to watch it, listen to it, read it, whatever it might be. So from a content perspective, and I know this is a huge generalization, and the answer is always, look, it depends. But I mean, from a content perspective, what sort of things do you generally feel, from your experience, work well with developers themselves?
That is such a hard question, because it all depends. I mean, every developer is going to be different. Even every developer within a particular sector or segment or industry focus. Really what they're looking for is content that answers their problems. So how can you best reach them? Now, and the best way to find that out is to ask them what channels they're gathering on. And this is a great way to find out what, where your people are gathering. And if you're not there, they're having those conversations without you. Now, some people are quite lucky that they can have an online community, a digital space where their customers can gather and talk within that space. So great if you have that particular proprietary system set up. Make sure you're attending those conversations. Make sure somebody's listening in. Make sure somebody's listening especially and can answer any questions that come up from the developer community. Now, if you don't have your own proprietary space, it's not that big of a problem, but just keep in mind, they're gathering somewhere. They're talking about you somewhere. So go and find out where that is. If you have the ability to survey them and ask them where they're gathering, that's great, because technology doesn't stand still. There are new platforms popping up all the time. Are they, do they use Git? Okay, well, do we have a Git presence? Why don't we have a presence there if our people are there? Are they talking about us on Reddit? Are they on Discord? Are they, just on, whatever, on Facebook? Nobody's on Facebook, but whatever.
Twitch.
So find out where your people are, and then try and engage them there. I mean, we've recently reignited our Instagram channel.
Okay.
And that was something that we tried out last year. It wasn't terribly successful, so we just kind of let it drop for a while, and we thought, well, let's give it another try. And it's actually worked fairly well this time. It's only been live for about a month now, I think. But the social team are really excited about this. A lot of times I think with channels, if you go there and you show up respectfully, and you provide content in that space that's useful, then it's all good, right? It's going to be a winner.
And from a channel's perspective then, I mean, how would you suggest people approach it? Let's say, for instance, you're doing a survey, you're talking to your audience, and they're coming back with, they spend the majority of their time on a particular channel then. Would you say to somebody, just focus on that channel for now then? Or would you still keep marketing to all the channels?
That probably is a question of budget. So if you are needing to, if you have a small budget, then go where the most bang for your buck is going to give you, right? That old saying of of spend it where it's going to be seen. I used to work for a company, and we had this sales manager who was like, all I want in life, the only thing I want in life, Christie, I want a full page advert in the British Airways High Life magazine. That's all I want. If I had that one thing, then I could literally roll this whole company in cash, because we would have so many leads and so much closed business. And I went to the CEO and I was like, can I just please have some cash for this one thing that this poor fella really wants? And the CEO was like, no, we're not going to do that. And I said, well, you could probably get him off your back if you just tried this as a punt. I believe in trying things out and seeing how they go. But you need to work within the confines and the constraints and the tolerances of your organization. If you want to try something new, try not to throw a lot of cash at it. Try to do it on a small scale and build up from there. I've seen companies, put advertisements on the outside of all the Black London taxis. All of them. There must be, 7,000 or 8,000 black taxis in London. That can't be a small thing. But what did they get out of that? Did they actually make that movement? Was that marker a movement for them? And that's what's exciting. That's why I really like marketing. But I am also a penny pincher, and I don't spend money very easily. And when I ask for money from my management, they know that I'm really, really going to look after it. So make sure that your values of how you're going to use the company's money are well known to the company, so that they trust you with that money.
What about from a content production point of view? Would you recommend, let's say, for instance, you've got an organization that perhaps isn't as big as Salesforce then. Would you recommend people get content created by subject matter experts, bearing in mind it might be a little bit more technical then? Or how would you sort of approach, or how have you approached that in the past?
I'd say that, again, that depends on your audience, but typically developers do listen to influencers in their space. If you have an influencer relationship, fantastic. If not, definitely you, as a person who is marketing to developers, you need to understand who those developers are listening to, because that person is setting the tone for that particular space. And the developers are listening and adhering to that, and they're going to be following through, right? So if you have somebody who is disrupting your industry and you know that a lot of your developers are listening to that particular audience or that particular influencer, what does that mean for your business, right? If you can build a stable of influencers, it's one of my favorite things to do, because I think that those individuals mean a lot to other people. And they can bring you a lot of credence, right? A lot of weight to your brand, to your organization, to your technology. But don't use them in a very marketing-y way, right? like if you're gonna invite, Steve Jobs, were he still alive, to be an influencer for your organization, that means you're going to pay him some money, probably, and he is going to produce some content for you. What's that going to get you? Make sure you're always looking at that bottom factor that you're trying to achieve. But, how is what he is saying actually going to impact the people who are listening to him? Because you're not going to be able to control 100% of what that person says. And in fact, you wouldn't want to, because then that person wouldn't be an influencer. But you have the ability to help that person reach your people, because your people are interested in what he's saying or she's saying. And that, I think, is quite powerful. So back to who should create your content. If you're lucky enough to have an in-house team of content producers who are developers, that's the ideal. We at Salesforce are very lucky because we have a Salesforce developer advocacy team. And those people are talking to our developer community every day. They know what their struggles are. They know what their challenges are. They know what kind of content they're seeking. They know what they want to do next. They know what they want to do first. And they can produce content that tackle all of those particular challenges. We in developer marketing can help them decide when and what type of content to produce that meets those needs. And we can also help them reach that audience once the content is created. And that's why it's a very harmonious and symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, we're certainly seeing more of it generally, actually. Companies having subject matter experts within their organization who are sort of influencers generally, not necessarily just for the sort of developer side of things. So, you always associate it, I think, more with consumer marketing sort of influencers. Yeah. But, that way of utilizing somebody like that is becoming more sort of prominent from our side anyway. At the start, you talked about sort of metrics. I mean, we're talking to B2B marketeers here. So obviously they do want to sell things. At some point,
there's nothing wrong with that.
Indeed. We agreed that the sort of classic countdown counter isn't going to work for developers, and the scarcity by now it's going to not be around next week is going to work either. But from a metrics point of view, then, if we're talking about a market, a team that are marketing to developers, then what sort of metrics would you suggest they think about?
Again, it goes to whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, right? So if you're, let's say you have a bug in your technology and your product team has that bug documented and it's on the roadmap for production, but that production isn't going to go in and, that particular sprint won't be deployed until spring of next year. Okay. So you've got quite a while to wait before your poor developer community get that particular fix that they need. So what can you do in the meantime to help them? Now, let's say if you are trying to market into that group, but you know that they're all really, really angry about this particular bug. Honesty and transparency might be the thing that you want to go with for that particular community. You need to keep your current people happy as a developer marketer before you go, please try not to sell an unlabeled bill of goods to a new community at the spite of your old community or your existing community, right? Always be very respectful of both of them. But I think that the important part is that you have your bottom line directive or goal that you're trying to achieve, and then you are trying to find those people to market to that. So again, that's when we can go to paid media, for example. Starting with zero is still zero. So maybe you're going to have a live event. Okay, well, we have 300 seats in our live event. We definitely want to sell 600 tickets, right? Because that's about a 2-for-1 no-show rate, right? So if we need to sell 600 tickets to developers, where are we going to go to find those people? Well, where are the people that you already have? right? Where are the people that you want to get to? What does that gap look like? So, for example, when I was at Adobe, we came out with a whole new piece of technology that was for specifically targeting the gaming industry. We had never been in the gaming industry. Well, the gaming industry is propped up by Java developers, as is in fact most things in the world. So I went out to individual Java user groups and I just rang up the organizer of every single one of them that had over a certain count of quantity of membership. And I said, would you like an Adobe person to come in and give a presentation to your community group about our new foray into this space? And the one thing that community group leaders need, go with me here, speakers and content. Yep. So it wasn't a hard sell at all. And within like a 6-week period, my 4 developer advocates had presented to like 6,000 people, right? That's a lot of people just by thinking about who was owning the group of people that I wanted to get in touch with. So I say that you might need to think outside the box, but paid media is a great tool nowadays. YouTube in particular has incredibly detailed analytics about users, as does Twitter to some respect. LinkedIn is your gold mine of data. However, they charge you a gold mine to get to those particular users, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't give it a try. Again, keeping a good look at that bottom line, what your dollar value is, and going after that particular audience. See how it goes. If you have to sell 600 tickets and you put 3,000 pounds into LinkedIn and you get 800 tickets sold, that's a win. If you do it and you only get 20 tickets sold, okay, we're not going to go with LinkedIn anymore, right? We're going to think of something else. We're going to go to where our people are located elsewise.
And would you be thinking about metrics like engagement then and qualitative type stuff when you're marketing to developers rather than MQL, SQL?
Absolutely. Because again, a lot of times we shouldn't be calling. Again, it depends on what, what your company is selling, but I don't call my developers leads. I don't do that because I don't have a financial transaction with them, that relationship. So instead, I look at kind of the engagement of the content that we're producing. So for example, if we have a campaign that goes up 3 times a year, and that campaign consists of 5 blog posts. One is published on a daily basis. So over a week-long period, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new blogs posted, right? So I'm looking specifically at the blog page views because that is my metric. That's my target number. However, how long are they spending on that page? Google Analytics will tell you that, right? If it's a video, that's really important to know. I did a campaign where I had videos. It was a YouTube campaign. And so that particular call to action was to get people's eyes on the videos that we produced, which were shorts. So I ran the campaign for about 6 weeks before I asked my agency, well, hang on, how long are they watching the videos for? And they're like, what? What do you mean? I was like, I need to know duration, because if they just click on the video and then they don't watch it, what was the point, right? So sometimes you you just have to put yourself into that audience member's shoes to understand what it is that you're really trying to ask them to do and how feasible is it that they're going to do that. So yes, engagement, activation, nurture, awareness, all of those things work beautifully together. And I try and track all of them. I am a data person.
Perfect. You should be as well. So what about for a bit of inspiration then for the audience? What's one campaign or something that you've perhaps done in this space then that you're particularly proud of?
We had a campaign that ran for about 18 months that I helmed, and it was a campaign to in a nutshell, we did some research. Go with me here. Practicing what I preach. We used our survey data that we survey our developers with on an annual basis or regular cadence. And we asked them where they were gathering, right? Exactly what I said at the beginning of this call. And they all said, many of them said, I'm on YouTube. I'm looking at YouTube videos. And we were like, we have a YouTube channel, but we've mostly just park content there. We haven't really created content specifically for YouTube. Why don't we take a look at that? And at the time, being a part of the developer marketing team, I was incredibly lucky because my teammates could look at individual pieces of the existing YouTube channel. And that particular channel wasn't organized terribly well. It didn't have great metadata. So it was hard for our developers, again, putting ourselves in their shoes, to find content that they were interested in. And the content wasn't specifically made for that channel. So mostly it was like, camera work from an existing workshop or from a presentation that we did in an event, right? That's not ever going to be great. So we wanted to drive people to the YouTube channel. So first, the developer marketing team tidied up. We did a little bit of house cleaning. We created playlists. We made a really great looking homepage banner. We implemented metadata. We took old stuff off that wasn't relevant, that nobody had looked at, because we looked at our data. We figured out what people had watched. So once we had a good, tidy, welcoming space, then, okay, now it's time to create some content for it. Our developer advocates, again, that partnership was so powerful. They went and created specific short form content, which we had never experimented with before, to answer specific challenges that our developer community had. And we knew what challenges they had because our developer advocates were working with them on a daily basis, hearing what their challenges were. So we created these quick takes, as we called them, which were short videos, less than 3 minutes. And then my developer advocates were like, okay, Christie, here you go. How are you going to make this work? So the exciting part was that then it was ready to build, right? I was ready to build something because we had never done this before. So I worked with my agency and we created little adverts, which were just tiny little thumbnails. But we used keywords that were specific to the developers, and we talked about how we were solving that particular challenge. Now, we got the keyword research from our in-house team, which we had an SEO team to help us figure out what keywords developers were looking for. So those are the keywords that we peppered throughout the ads. And that particular campaign was a massive success, but it wasn't a massive success because I got them to do something. It was actually a massive success because it had so much more weight than it would have done if it had just been a paid media campaign. Okay. You can literally put a paid media campaign in front of a group of, anybody, any type of group, and show your boss and say, look, I got all these hits, right? But that's not what I wanted to do. What I wanted to do was help our developers solve problems. And that's what the campaign did. It just so happened that the metrics that I was going to track to prove that happened were hit and exceeded. And that was so gratifying to me because it meant that we were able to find the right people. We were able to show them the right adverts. And we were able to get them to come and watch the video that they wanted to see to help them solve a problem. And then not only were those metrics exceeded, but then unbelievably, they went to the extra step of subscribing to our channel. Perfect. I didn't ask them to subscribe to the channel. That was not a metric I was measuring because I didn't expect that to happen. I thought they would just watch the videos. No, they subscribed to the channel as well. We got like 37,000 extra subscribers through that campaign. Wow. And people hear numbers like that, and I think marketers are like, oh my God, how much money did she spend on that? I spent like nothing. And I know you're hearing, okay, she works at Salesforce. Nothing for her is billions. It's really not billions. It's less than a mortgage payment. Okay. That's how much money I had to spend. So keep that in mind when you're thinking, I don't have the budget to do this. Developers aren't expensive. They aren't exclusive. They're out there. They're inclusive to each other, but you just have to go and find them and give them content that is right and relevant for them.
I love it. You're certainly practicing what you preach, that's for sure. So switching things up a little bit then, if you were to hire somebody, and I think we've talked about a few things that actually means that as a marketer, you have to be slightly different, thinking certainly slightly differently as you would normally. But if you were hiring somebody to do marketing to developers then, what sort of skills and attributes would you look for?
Number one, have you ever been in a community? Ever? I created this job spec. and I could see my HR team, they were like, Christie, are you sure you want us to publish this? It's like, yes, this is what I want to know. I want to find a person who's ever been in a community. And that could be a church group. It could be, a group at your university. It could be some gamers that have you been a part of that community? Because that automatically gives me the insight that maybe you're willing to think a little bit differently, right? Because we don't have, an amazing influencer who's going to go out and tell everybody to buy our software. That's not how developer marketing works, right? We have to go out and work harder to find those people and work harder to tell them what it is that they're looking for, even if they don't know that that's what they're looking for. So I need somebody who's going to listen, who understands what it means to be in a community, and who values and appreciates the state of community. Because again, we can't cut off our existing community to go out and find new people. That's not what it's about. We have to keep them all. So are you a community person? Are you a data person? That's number 2, because I love a metric. And if there's an old saying in marketing that goes, if you couldn't measure it, why did you do it? Right? Yep. That is what I like to live by. I don't do anything that I can't measure. So I like to have those 2 things. And then thirdly, traditional marketers are fantastic because I'm not a traditional marketer. I didn't go to school to become a marketer. I don't have that knowledge and that background behind me. I'm a gut marketer. I market by my gut, right? But if you had somebody who's a traditional marketer who went to school and learned all the things and understands paid media and understands all these things, they are able to create a really comprehensive and impactful campaign, whereas I had to kind of maneuver my way through it, right? So I would say, get your skills, understand what opportunities there are for marketing in today's world, right? In 2022 and maybe even 2023. And then see where you can go from there. But utilize those things: the community knowledge, the community insight, and the community appreciation, the data and the metrics. And then fourthly, I would say go for your messaging and positioning. So can you turn a phrase? Like if you're a marketer who can't turn a phrase or isn't really strong in messaging or positioning, please work with someone who is. Get a good copy editor. Copy editors don't cost that much money. Copywriters don't cost that much money. These people are worth gold because they will help you hook the people that you're trying to reach. They provide the little bit of bait dangling on the end of your fishing line. It doesn't matter if you park your trawler in the right spot in the ocean if you don't have the right bait. So it is about that. So those are my 4 things.
Fantastic. Well, I've really enjoyed talking to you, Christie. So much good content there. If anybody wants to reach out to you and find out a little bit more, what's the best way of them doing it?
Oh, please tweet me. I'm a Twitter girl. You can find me at @CFiduraUK, and I would love to hear from you.
Thank you very much.